You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Feel like who art ed?
We'll try to slice it.
Who art ed? Mr. Wood art ed me.
Good. Either way, it's ambiguous. It works on so many levels.
I know.
That's off to a great start.
Welcome to Who Arted Weekly Art History for All Ages. I'm your host, Kyle Wood, and today we're going to be looking at Charles and Ray Eames. If you've ever sat in a sleek, molded plywood chair or admired a toy that was as beautiful as it was fun, chances are you've encountered the Eames' legacy. They weren't just designers, they were innovators, constantly experimenting with new materials and technologies to create beautiful, functional, and accessible objects. Let's start with Charles. Charles Ormond Eames Jr. was born in St. Louis, Missouri in 1907. He showed an early interest in engineering and architecture. He studied architecture at Washington University in St. Louis for 2 years, but reportedly left because his views were too modern. He believed that architecture should be a tool for social good, a way to improve people's lives, and after leaving the university, he started his own architectural practice in St. Louis in 1930. He was deeply influenced by the Finnish architect Eliel Saarinen, who later offered him a fellowship at the Cranbrook Academy of Art in Michigan in 1938. Now, let's take a look at Ray. Bernice Alexander Ray Kaiser was born in Sacramento, California in 1912. She was a force of nature, a talented abstract painter with a keen eye for color and form. She was a founding member of the American Abstract Artists Group in 1936 and studied painting with Hans Hofmann in New York. Her artistic sensibilities were deeply ingrained, and seeking to further her artistic development, she also found her way to Cranbrook in 1940. And it's at Cranbrook that the story really takes off. It was a hotbed for artistic innovation, a place where architects, designers, and other artists collaborated and pushed boundaries. Charles, by then the head of the industrial design department at Cranbrook, was working with Eero Saarinen, Eliel's son, on a model plywood chair for the Museum of Modern Art's Organic Design in Home Furnishings competition. Ray was enlisted to help with the graphic design and drawings for their entry. The chemistry between Charles and Ray was undeniable from the start. Charles divorced his first wife and married Ray in 1941. And with that, one of the most legendary partnerships in design history was born. They made LA their home and the heart of their business. The timing of their collaboration is crucial to understanding the work. They were operating squarely in the mid-century modern era, a period roughly spanning from the mid-1930s to the mid-1960s. Modern design in that era was really focused on the power of technology and the potential for new materials to create a better world. A lot of stuff was made emphasizing clean lines, geometric forms, and a focus on functionality. This was the era that gave us expressions like form follows function, less is more, and of course, the idea of being true to the materials. The Eameses weren't just a part of this movement, they were some of the leaders within it. During World War II, Charles and Ray, through their newly formed Eames Office, were commissioned by the U.S. Navy to develop molded plywood splints, stretchers, and experimental glider shells. This wartime experimentation was crucial. It allowed them to perfect their techniques for molding plywood into complex curves, a process that would become a hallmark of their furniture designs. They weren't just making military equipment, they were doing R&D for their future. After the war, they translated this knowledge into affordable, mass-produced furniture. Their goal, as Charles often said, was, quote, to make the best for the most for the least, end quote. They believed that good design should be accessible to everyone. And this philosophy drove their explorations in not just furniture, but also architecture, like their own Eames House, a revolutionary modular home built in 1949 using off-the-shelf industrial components. They also made pioneering films, created exhibitions, and designed toys. They were curious about art in all its forms and didn't want to limit themselves. I think it's also important to realize that this was a creative partnership with two different artists who had kind of different backgrounds and different strengths that they both brought to the collaboration. While Charles often served as the public face and was more focused on the mechanics and structure, Ray's artistic training was indispensable. She had an incredible sense of aesthetics, color, texture, and the overall feel of a piece. She was the one who would say, "Is it surprising, or does it look good from the back?" They had a sort of symbiotic creative force, truly complementing each other. And the Eames office seemed to reflect this adventurous, creative balancing act. It was described as vibrant, playful, and an experimental environment. Now, I want to take a closer look at one of their most iconic furniture designs, the classic Eames lounge chair and ottoman. By the mid-1950s, Charles and Ray had already achieved significant success with their molded plywood and fiberglass chairs. But Charles had a specific vision. He wanted to create a chair that had the, quote, warm, receptive look of a well-used first baseman's mitt, end quote. The chair was intended to be a high-end luxury item, and this was a departure from their earlier mass-market, low-cost furniture. But it was still made of molded plywood, just with their commitment to quality and thoughtful design. Development took several years of experimentation. They wanted it to be the epitome of comfort and elegance. The Eames lounge chair and ottoman was first introduced to the world in 1956 on Arlene Francis's Home Show, which was part of NBC's Today Show programming at the time. Kind of amazing to just think like a piece of furniture making its debut on national television. You've probably seen it in various places. Like as a kid, I first became enamored with the chair as it was used as a set piece on the television show Frasier. But if you're not familiar, you can look at the image for the episode art or just picture this. 3 curved plywood shells. Originally, these shells were made of Brazilian rosewood veneer. Although due to environmental concerns, current production uses Santos palisander and other sustainable woods. But each shell is upholstered with plush, individually tufted leather cushions, usually in black, although some other colors are available. The chair swivels on a cast aluminum base with 5 legs, and the ottoman has a similar 4-leg base. But it's not just about those basic elements. It's about the way the armrests curve upwards, inviting you in, the slight angle of the seat and the back perfectly calibrated for relaxation. The cushions are attached to the shells with a clever system of hidden clips and rings, allowing for some movement and flexibility. There are no visible fasteners on the wood shells, maintaining those clean lines. It's a complex piece of engineering designed to look effortless. Now, I said before, it took years of experimentation to get it right. Unlike their earlier single-shell plywood chairs, the lounge chair shells are made of thin layers of plywood with a veneer finish molded into their distinctive shapes. The cushions are filled with urethane foam, providing that sink-in comfort. The base and back braces are die-cast aluminum, strong yet relatively lightweight. Every element was meticulously considered and refined. The lounge chair cemented Charles and Ray's status as premier designers on the international stage. It was an instant classic and became a symbol of luxury, taste, and modern design. It won numerous awards and was acquired by museums around the world, including the Museum of Modern Art in New York, which had championed their work from early on. And while they continued to innovate in many areas, the lounge chair became their most recognizable piece of furniture, almost a brand identity in and of itself. It's influenced countless other designers to explore new forms and material combinations. You see its DNA in lounge chairs that came after that attempt to balance sculptural forms with ergonomic comfort. And I think it's interesting how this particular piece of furniture could become so big and influential beyond that small world of museums, gallery collectors, and the upscale luxury market it was intended for. It's appeared in film and TV shows, advertisements, and high-end interiors as a sort of visual shorthand for sophistication and good taste. Even today, nearly 70 years after its debut, the Eames lounge chair and Ottoman is still in production by Herman Miller in the United States and Vitra internationally. It remains a coveted piece by millions around the world, me included. I mean, my dream would be to have an Eames lounge chair and Ottoman. And this enduring mass appeal, decades after its creation, proves that good, thoughtful design, prioritizing both human comfort and aesthetic pleasure, will truly never go out of style. This concludes this week's episode of Who Arted, part of the Airwave Media Podcast Network. If you found this tolerable, please leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast app. You can find images of the work being discussed this week and every week on social media at Who Arted Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and of course on the website whoartedpodcast.com. Podcast done.